Hey guys, how y'all doing? BionicleSaurus here, and in this video we are going to be taking a look at the 2015 Schleich Carnotaurus. Let's start straight in with the overall appearance of this figure. Overall, this figure has an incredibly and consistently reptilian look. It's covered in these osteoderms and large scutes and spikes, which we have direct evidence that Carnotaurus possessed those, so that is indeed accurate and indeed makes sense. All in all, he just has a really reptilian, almost evil kind of look. Of course, that toothy grin certainly doesn't help in making him look unintimidating. It certainly does look quite fearsome. One of the best things about the overall look of this figure is the color scheme. He has a great mix of this dark cobalt blue on top with this sky blue dry brushed detail on the osteoderms and whatnot along his back, and this kind of sea green or sea foam kind of color on the underside of the feet and limbs and torso and tail, and well, everything is just all over the bottom. The paint in general is not only nice looking, but very well applied. The meticulously sculpted and painted teeth and eyes and horns and all the little osteoderms and bumps along the skin, really, really well done, and it looks really, really good. So, for overall appearance, I'm going to give this figure an A-. There's nothing extraordinary, but the coloration is really, really appealing, and while not everyone may like the reptilian aesthetic, I personally think that it works. Moving on to detail, this figure is pretty well done when it comes to detail. There's a lot of minor things that they included, which I appreciate, but overall, it's just really, really well done. As you can see, like I mentioned earlier, the teeth and the eyes and nostrils and all that are really meticulously sculpted and painted, and that really carries throughout the whole body. As you can see, while not every single scale is individually sculpted, well, certainly not, most of the significant bumps and wrinkles and osteoderms are individually sculpted, and I think it looks pretty good. One thing I especially like is the rather precise and detailed paint application on the claws of the hands and feet. The only real downfall when it comes to detail is the paint job, because as pretty as it is with all the nice shades of blue, there's really only 3 shades: the sky blue dry brushed on the top, the cobalt, and the sea foam or the aqua. And they aren't really blended together all that well. I mean, they're very attractive, but because they're just these 3 very bright shades, the paint job doesn't come across as very complex or naturalistic. So, for detail, I'm going to give this figure a B+. It's not bad, but it's not great. The sculpted detail is really, really good. However, the simplicity of the paint job really does take away from it. Moving on to the last category, scientific accuracy. And unfortunately, this figure actually has quite a bit wrong with it. So I'm just going to try and quick fire through all the different issues as fast as I can. So, first off, the head. As you can see, the skull from the front is far too wide. In reality, despite having the profile of that really kind of squat, thick-looking head, from the front, the skulls of a bellow were actually really, really thin. So that's certainly one inaccuracy. Similar to, I believe the Papo Carnotaurus actually has the same problem, so I don't know why companies can't get that right. Let's see. The arms, despite how small they are, they're not small enough. It seems kind of silly to say because they are these tiny stubby arms, but they should be even more tiny and stubby. And honestly, I'd say the head is slightly oversized as well. Thankfully, the feet are definitely not oversized. That is good. The hands aren't exactly pronated like this one that's molded onto his stomach. I think they're trying to show that the whole arm is kind of bending down that way, so I'll let that slide. The hallexes, or the dew claws as they are often referred to, are reversed, and I would say, especially for the one on the left foot, it is too far up on the foot. It should be lower down, closer to the other toes. But the reversal of them is certainly the main issue there. You could count the colors as a possible inaccuracy. I mean, they are a little bit bright, but I don't think we can really discount that large theropods would have been brightly colored. Probably the biggest inaccuracy, and it's really in your face and hard not to notice, is the fact that it is a tripod. It relies on its tail for balance when it is standing. And it's one thing like the way some Carnegie figures, like the Carnegie Cryolophosaurus, did this. That's just one example, where you have the tail pretty much parallel and it just slowly slopes down. This one really looks like he's dragging it. It really juts down towards the ground, really quite drastically, excuse me. Pretty just a real straight just bend towards the ground, and you can see this little bit kind of just laying on the ground. It looks overly reptilian and outdated, and they would never be in this position. The final real issue to talk about, he does not have a cloaca, which is unfortunate, but we don't really see that included often in figures by all sorts of companies. But one of the biggest issues is his head is shrink-wrapped. As you can see, the orbit, the temporal fenestra, antorbital fenestra, that is all really, really defined and skeletal, and that is unfortunate. So, for accuracy, this figure is only going to get a C-. I would probably give it a D if it weren't for the fact that this is indeed a step up from Schleich's previous attempts at reconstructing this genus. So, in the end, this figure gets a C+. Now, there are some good things to say about this figure, for sure, but all in all, it's really a fairly typical Schleich toy. It has some bright colors, a striking overall look to it, but in the end, it's lacking in realism and even more lacking in accuracy. And these days, after all of Schleich's many fails, despite this one not being one of the worst figures, I mean, it's certainly not. By Schleich standards, it is probably up there in my favorite Schleich figures, but it's still not that great. It has a lot of accuracy issues, and personally, I'm not exactly the biggest fan of how it looks overall. BionicleSaurus signing out.